Right, so welcome back to the Homegrown Music Podcast. This is episode 4 now. We're really starting to, spool through these. We're really getting on with them.
It's a weekly thing. We just,
Yeah.
it's quite nice. It gives me a structure to my week.
Absolutely. It's a little ritual I think we've got into. Like midweek
Yeah.
we record it, and then I
think
edited
so.
it on the weekend. And
Get up the next one. Yeah, it's good.
yeah. How are you, man? How have you been?
In pain, but otherwise all good.
We were talking just before we started recording, and Jack's back has left the chat.
Given up.
Given up.
I was writing something yesterday as I was sat here. Something very nice, and then my back just gave up. So I'm now immobilised for a short while. It's better than it was. But it's still going, and I've got a driving lesson tomorrow as well. So
mate, I feel for you. That is rough. Like, I think as musicians, man, I think it's almost like an occupational hazard. Like, just getting like
back pain,
problems. Like,
well, I think it's the common. There's the bass playing thing about shoulders, where because you've got a heavy, and it happens to guitar players, but you more hear it with bass players, where they're so heavy, they lock down your shoulders, and you start sort of swooping down, or you start damaging your shoulder. I don't have that problem because my bass is very light, but like when you do hold like big jazz bass or whatever, it does do your back. It sort of does it all. Especially when you sat as well, you probably get this as well, where you're a drummer and you don't have the back of a seat. My piano doesn't have a seat.
I think a lot of drum thrones, they're called, do have like the back support thing, but I find it really like uncomfortable having a back support. But like I just have like a round throne, and I just have to like make sure that I'm like sitting really straight and like sort of chest a bit forward, shoulders back. Do you know what I mean? Like posture. Because if I slouch, I like lean over the kit and my back goes all messed up. Yeah, and my shoulders go.
That's exactly what I do at the piano. I can't do it now, but you normally hunched over as you're playing, and your back strains a lot. And you see piano players play on like chairs, but it doesn't look right. Or you see like people like Ben Folds or Billy Joel will play on the drum throne. They'll actually, and for some reason, and I guess more manoeuvrability or something.
Maybe.
But I don't like either of them. So I like having a piano bench, like a proper one, but it does do your back.
Yeah.
It's hazardous.
Because I guess a piano bench, it gives you a bit more. You can kind of go to the side a bit more if you need to lean.
Yeah, you can move up. You can move up across. And you see, I think the reason Billy Joel and people like Ben Folds and stuff use the drum thrones is because you can turn them.
Yeah, the twist ability.
So you can turn around and face the audience and then turn back round. But I mean, that's a choice, really. I'd more right with just having a stool and you just turn your body. It's just laziness otherwise. But
I think it's the drummers love it because obviously they can get around all the toms. If they've got loads of toms, they can and like twist as they do it. It's in the hips.
I mean, that's the joy of having a swivelly chair. I've got a swivelly chair today, though.
Yeah.
Because it's got a back on it, so I'm actually supported today. But we wanted to talk about. We were just talking about this before we started. We wanted to talk about instrument maintenance, just in general. And you do quite a lot of drum restorations, don't you?
Yeah. I've done a few. I think it's something that I'm really interested in. I've watched lots of YouTube videos, like trying to learn this stuff, like tutorials and stuff.
And what originally got you into doing it?
Well, so I mean, it's a bit of a sad story, really. Like, well, the initial bit isn't sad, but I'd always like loved drumming and playing drums and stuff, and then I started following a few YouTube channels which were like drum channels, but they also did restoration. There's like one called David R, which is like the best. He's like the best guy for it, and he has loads of videos talking about how to take apart drums, like drum tips, like how to tune drums, and like all of this stuff. And So I got into that, and I just wanted to like do it because I saw it. And then I was in school one day, and something sad had happened, and it was like a really weird time. It was a very sad time, and I sort of got into it as almost like a therapeutic thing. Like it was a very relaxing thing to do. It took my mind off stuff, and it kind of, it's like one of those things like when you involve yourself with your hands, taking apart things. You know, it was like a release sort of thing. So I did that. Basically, I started in school just like on this one. I've got it here. And this is the one that I first started on. And when I found it, it was literally just the wooden.
This is the one that we were talking about the other week, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was just the wooden shell,
Nice.
These lugs, and a few of these keys and the hoops. But like these are new heads that I got for it. They're a bit old now, but I had to get new wires and a new skin and stuff. But
nice.
Taking apart was such an interesting sort of discovery of how the internal workings of a drum work. Because I had to take it completely all apart, so I had to unscrew every little bit and like, you know, work out. So this is a washer that goes in front of the screw, and that keeps it separated from the shell, like little things like that. And I guess my process is, when it comes to drums anyway, is taking out the lugs. So I'll just get the drum to make it easier. So I unscrew from the inside. I get a screwdriver and I unscrew these bits. Obviously, I unscrew the tension rods first using a drum key.
Yeah, okay.
Take all of the metal hardware off, however it needs to be done. And then basically, I have to use white vinegar, and I soak all the metal parts in white vinegar because the white vinegar helps get rid of the rust and the grime.
Cleans up, yeah.
Yeah, and then so once they've been soaking in there, I like clean them off with a rag. But yeah, no, I literally just started in school with like, oh, I'm just gonna take this apart, maybe like get a tissue and like try and get some of the grime off. But then it kind of developed into, oh, I've watched a few videos on how to do it. I'm gonna take it home and do a complete like take everything apart and clean the entire thing. And yeah, that's
I've got I don't maintain my instruments myself much, partly because I don't trust myself with it.
Yeah.
But I've got so my acoustic, my electric are at a shop right now getting cleaned up and fixed up and stuff. But I've got my classical, which I can't. Hang on. Oh. There we go. Got this one, which is pretty cheap. I mentioned it before. It's the Toys R Us one. It's really out of tune. But this one's kind of like an experimental thing that I just mess with and clean up. And you know, I've got the nuts been replaced, the bridge has been replaced at points. And yeah, one of the machine heads actually I need to get replaced. This one, it keeps it's really tight. So I think there's something wrong with the gear or something. But that one I'm okay with messing around with.
Yeah.
But
I think there's such a big difference between like guitars and drums, because I guess with a lot of guitars, obviously, unless they're acoustic, there's like an element of, you need to know a little bit of like electronics, because acoustic drums are a completely acoustic instrument, and every sound that you get from it is created acoustically, and therefore like there's no wiring that needs to be done. There's no
no, well, that's why I don't mess with the bass or the electric or anything. This is not my area. I don't quite know how to even change the strings on my bass. I need to figure it out. Because it's a Hofner, it's got a floating bridge, and so you've got to snap the strings out, I think, and then snap them back in.
Okay.
But yeah, instrument maintenance is quite an interesting thing. Like, you go onto any like YouTube channel who does mainly guitars or something, they do talk about quite a lot of how to keep your instruments clean, how to how to make sure that the electronics are still working and stuff. And the main thing with guitar players is everyone talks about your strings and changing them and all the time. And I think, yeah, you got to do it every 6 weeks, not weeks, every 6 months or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think there's a big thing
Or
as
at least
well, like
changed.
like when it comes to maintenance, like I think most instruments, if you use them a lot, and you sort of keep them clean or whatever as you use them, then there's not really much need for restoration or like maintenance. But it's like when you find like a really old, crusty instrument that hasn't been used for like 10 years,
Yeah.
that's when they need the most work.
Yeah, I mean, I as we was talked about before with the Fender Jazz bass that I gave away to Aidan. I mean, that thing was in an awful state because clearly no one was maintaining it properly.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were and it fell into disrepair or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you've got to really take care of your stuff. Otherwise it all just breaks apart. I don't really know what else to say.
Do you have like a routine where you like do you ever do this where like every few months or a few weeks or whatever you might like just get a nice cloth and like dust everything down and do you ever do that?
Well, I've got whenever I restring this, I've got a thing. So you take off, because it's quite a cheap thing. You take off all the strings and then because quite a lot of dust accumulates in the bridge down here.
Yeah.
Quite a lot accumulates at the top. So you take it all apart, the strings, and you take out the bridge and stuff, and you just wipe down the whole thing. And this time round, I took some polish to the fretboard here.
Nice.
Because it's gotten quite dirty.
Yeah.
And you can see like a couple of finger marks where obviously you've played a chord or something and the marks have been left behind. So I was trying to clean up all that and sort of get it fairly well done. And then I just dust it down, clean it up a bit, and then you put the strings back on.
I do the same with the kit because I feel like, you know, it's such a static instrument, the drums, that like they accumulate so much dust.
Different, isn't it?
I had a spider web on one of my cymbal stands the other day. A little spider made a little web, you know, underneath a cymbal, and I was like, dude, it's not the best place to make your house.
No,
like,
might not be. Might not be right.
You're gonna get hearing damage, you know.
No, well, I take every now and again with my electric where I think it's just where the strings were really old. There would be like dirt coming out of the strings and onto the board, so I'd have to grab like earbuds.
Yeah.
The cotton wool buds and just like clean under the strings and clean up the fretboard from underneath. Then that's partly why I've sent it away to get it properly cleaned up because there's only so much I can do that a professional can do better. But yeah, you get that after a while with guitar strings is that they start wearing out really easily. And my bass has already started doing it. They used to be like silver strings, but now they're starting to turn bronze where you've overused them. Not overused them, but where you've played over it and the coating's starting to come off. Which is usually a sign for me that they start.
How often would you
have a look?
How often would you replace your strings? Would you say
the bass got its strings changed about 3-4 months ago?
Right.
My acoustic strings constantly need changing because they keep breaking all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on with that, so that's partly why I've sent that away as well.
Do you play too hard?
Well, I think what the problem is the string gauge, which just means how thick or thin it is. I think they're too thin.
Right.
So I think, and it's supposedly that the thinner the string, the quicker it wears out.
Yeah.
Especially if you play quite a lot with a pick or something.
Yeah. What strings do you use? Like what brand?
Classical, I use Dario, and then if you give me 1 second, I've got my box on my back, and then this is my box of random crap.
Nice.
That's a set of classical strings. That's Pro R. That's the Dario. Yeah. got Ernie Ball electric strings.
Ernie Ball,
I think
nice.
they're the ones that I've got. Not obviously these exact pair, but I've got another set that are going on to my electric currently. Then I've got, what's the electric? Box is a mess. I haven't got the packet for the acoustic in here, but I can't tell you what they were.
I've got a really unorganized pile of drum heads that I need to sort out because like I don't want to buy any more new ones, but I also want to like switch between the ones that I've got so I can make them last a bit longer. Because I feel yeah.
Well, this box and top of my amp as well. I mean, it's got top of my amp's got harmonicas on it, picks, capos, speakers, pens, all sorts. But this box is sort of my hardware box of like, if needs be, grab stuff. So I've got loads of strings. That's some lyrics of something. But then you've got like your string winder, which is taken off the machine head, like take it down, and a screwdriver with this particular guitar. The screws will come loose as you turn the gears, so you just tighten them up. Pliers, bar slides, which I've still not fully got into. Whatever that is.
What are these strange mystical objects you've got?
As I was saying, like cotton wool buds for just cleaning up strings. Harmonica stand that goes around your neck.
Yeah, Bob Dylan.
No.
Yeah.
I made a silly decision the other day. I went to buy another harmonica because I had one in C.
Right.
That one. I had it in C, which is great for like Piano Man and like very little else.
I love that.
I'm sure there are others. So I had one in C, and this is a big river harp from Hohner, made in Germany. And then I went into the store with Bob Dylan in mind of Blowing in the Wind, which is in the key of D. And I went in, and in my head I was like, right, I'm going to buy a harmonica in D. Just came out with one in A instead, for some reason. You can technically play in D on it. It's called cross harp, which is where you play in a different key on a different keyed harmonica. But yeah, I'm not that talented with those yet. But yeah,
nice.
I've got a case for them. I've got this thing. I can't ever pronounce it correctly. I don't know what you call it, but it's Camillaba. It's an African instrument, but they're really cool.
Nice.
Like,
love
they're really
that.
cool and really nice. And
kalimba. Is it a kalimba?
Kalimba?
Is that something
Probably.
else? I don't know. I can't remember. But I like
the
that.
Instructions are in the box. Yeah, I got this as a birthday present this year,
nice.
And yeah.
Very
I would have thought it'd be quite cheap, but yeah, it's. What do you have any other like random instruments?
Oh man. Well, so I bought a second-hand trumpet the other day from like the recycling centre nearby.
All right.
And it's a really nice trumpet. It's like a Yamaha trumpet, but it was like dirt cheap, and because they go for tons of money. Because I was thinking about getting a trumpet for a long time, because I used to play cornet when I was a lot younger, and a cornet is basically just like a condensed trumpet. It's a little bit softer in tone, whatever, but I wanted to play a trumpet because I thought, I need to play a tuned instrument rather than just banging drums. And, I wanted to expand my horizons, so I got a second-hand Yamaha trumpet. I still need to play it a bit more. I learned the intro to that cheerleader song. You know that?
Yeah, you played it to us the other day, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it.
2015. Yeah.
Oh man, I need to learn more songs on it. But I mean, apart from that, I have I think there's a clarinet knocking about somewhere that my mum plays.
I've got a recorder that you learn in like year 3. I've got a recorder in the piano still.
Yeah.
I've never been able to make it sound any good, but I've got one.
Nice.
Do I have any other random instruments laying around?
I used to have egg shakers, but I guess that's percussion-y.
Yeah, but it's still a bit out there. I've got 2 ukuleles.
Nice.
It's slightly out of tune. And then the thing
I
with
like.
ukuleles,
Did you paint it? I like the color scheme.
no, so this is Lloyd's one. Well, one of
wow.
Lloyd's ones.
Okay.
He bought a couple of like cheap ukuleles for like a couple of quid, and then he just painted them just for a fun thing to do.
I like
and he lent me this one a while back, and I've brought it with me, so I've still got it.
Nice. Nice.
Probably return it.
It's really good though, because I feel like if you ever want to record anything, if you have like a wide variety of sounds, you can do whatever you want. You know.
Yeah, I like having loads of sort of almost random instruments around, because it does help expand how you write a bit. So how you write on a ukulele is very different from how you write on a piano, for instance. Because on the ukulele, your options are really limited in what you can do. This is really tough. This needs a string change. On our theme of maintenance, this does need a clean up.
Honestly, like I'm gonna focus more on like restoring the stuff that I have than buying anything else, because I need to like stop buying drum gear because it's gonna cost too much money in the long run. It's like I bought a cymbal the other day and it was just like, this has to stop. Like I can't afford this lifestyle.
Oh wow. No, I really can't. I mean,
but this is something I want to get onto. Like drums in particular are the most expensive instrument that exist, and it's so painful that, you know, a good quality cymbal costs like upwards of 300 quid new, and it just makes me cry because I can't afford to like get all these nice cymbals. And
that's the price of my bass alone. Like,
exactly.
300 quid. Like, I'm accumulative of all the instruments I own. They're quite expensive, but individually they're
reasonably priced.
The piano is the most expensive, and the bass is around a similar price. Oh no, that's a lie. My electric's more expensive, but so cumulatively it's quite a lot. But when you look at it in parts, it's like it's not too bad.
Yeah,
like, that's a average price.
I always the thing is, I always try and buy secondhand because, you know, I don't want to be paying like extortionate amounts of money for, you know, these brand new cymbals, because this is something I've preached about before, but like the drum sort of industry, the drum world is exorbitantly priced. Like, I guess maybe it's probably fair for like the labor that is used to create these instruments, but at the same time, a lot of stuff is made in factories where the whole production line is automated, and, you know, some of these drums don't need to be priced the way they are. Like, obviously artisan crafted, like handmade stuff, it's good to pay good money for, because you need to pay people what they deserve, right? But when it's all like factory made, I don't really like how everything's so expensive. So I always get second hand now. I think I haven't bought a brand new drum or anything since I got like my ride cymbal, and then that was it. I was like, I'm not going to buy anything brand new again, because I've seen the light, and you can get stuff well cheap secondhand.
It's really hard buying secondhand. I mean, if I was to ever get another piano, I'd look at secondhand, because pianos are massive. But it's hard when you're looking at left-handed instruments secondhand, because there are so few of them. It's the same when you just go into a shop anyway and you buy them. I was having a chat with someone the other day, actually. He's left-handed, but he plays right-handed.
Yeah.
I physically can't, like, because you've got to you've got to get your right hand to. It's ridiculous.
Once you've trained yourself to do it a certain way, you
Yeah.
can't then go back. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's partly sort of influenced by how you play piano, because you use. For me, everyone on a piano uses their right hand for chords and everything, which would be your right hand on your guitar, and then your left hand's the one keeping time in your bass,
Yeah.
which is strumming. So for me, it makes perfect sense to translate it straight over, because it's the same thing, the same hands doing the same sort of things.
But this world is designed for right-handed people, so.
Yes, it really is. It's
so as a fellow
cool
lefty,
world.
I know your struggle, because I literally learned to play drums like a righty, because I knew that later on in life, if I ever wanted to go to a gig with a shared kit, you know, I'd have to change everything around if I wanted to play it.
Don't want to move it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, literally,
You don't want to move it all.
Yeah, I just did a Ringo and played with my left hand sort of being my dominant hand.
Yeah, that way around.
But like, still, like, I would still cross over, so I'd still have like right hand on the hi-hat, left hand on the snare, and you know, but like doing fill, like Ringo, like his left hand like almost comes in front of his right hand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I've seen a chat with him where he was saying the reason that the intro to come together is sounds so weird is because he leads with his left hand.
Yeah.
So it's the hi-hat, and then he leads around the kit that way around.
Yeah.
Whereas a right-handed player does it that way around.
Yeah.
Which is quite a it was
because he's ending the phrase on he's ending the phrase on his right hand and then coming back in with his I don't know thing is it doesn't make sense to me. He's such a weird drummer, man, but I love his style, and I think
it's a very unique style.
Yeah, he's got to be one of my favorite drummers for sure. He's up there with, like, for me personally, Roger Taylor is one of my favorite drummers. I've got to love Ringo because Ringo's Ringo. You know, you can't not love a bit of Ringo. You got to love his drumming and also his drum sound, because I think that gets overlooked a bit. But like his sound was such a classic sound.
From what I understand, it's quite a muffled sound.
Yeah, lots of
muffling.
Of
how he fills up the bass drum.
Coated heads as well, like on all his toms, and with tea towels over them to really just add an extra layer of deadening. But like in the really early stuff, it was just like, oh man, just those early recordings, they just sound so like brash, and like, you know, that's probably to do with the recording quality. But like, there's just such a there's something else there to his drumming.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how early you're talking about the Beatles recordings, because if you're talking about some of their really, really early stuff, Ringo wouldn't have even been playing.
No, like when he first joined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's the story of "Love Me Do" is their first single, and Ringo's just joined the band, and he starts playing the drum part. And George Martin, the producer, just goes, "No, not having it," and brings in a session drummer to play Ringo's part on their very first single.
Ouch.
And Ringo's like playing maracas or something. I know.
You frozen? No. What were you saying about George?
I know, my internet's been weird.
George Martin.
So Ringo had just joined after leaving the previous band he was in, which name escapes me. And he comes in to play his drum part, and George Martin immediately went, "No, not having it." And Ringo ends up on maracas while the session drummer comes in to play the drums. I think he was allowed to play drums on the second single, which again, I can't remember what it was. But it's a bit discouraging when you've just joined a new band and immediately the producer's like, "No, you're not playing drums."
Have you ever heard the joke
Poor
about the
Ringo.
Beatles where it's like Ringo wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles, you know, because Paul McCartney could
Everyone,
drum.
Paul McCartney did play drums for a while. This is me geeking out about the Beatles because I know way too much. Paul plays drums on the White Album on a couple of songs where Ringo left because they were all very tense and angry at each other. Ringo just left and decided he wasn't coming back. So Paul plays drums on Back in the USSR and a couple of other songs.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the quote of Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles, everyone credits it to John Lennon. And
Yeah.
at first I thought it was true. I thought John did say it because it does sound like a sort of a jokey thing you would say about a friend. But it turns out he didn't say it. And it was just like a... No one said it.
Oh, it's just
It just ended up like
yeah.
being like a myth or something. Like supposedly they said it at some point.
Right.
And the footage was lost of them saying it, so they can't prove it, or disprove it. And then it just became the meme of John saying it. And then, but yeah, that's your little fact of the day. No one actually thinks Ringo's a bad drummer.
No, I love Ringo. I love
You're
Ringo.
welcome.
He's a great drummer.
I think, and even if they did say that claim, I think it would be massively untrue because while Paul was a decent drummer, like as we were saying, Ringo's got such a unique way of playing and
I loved
working with a song.
His swishy sort of hi-hat rhythm.
Yeah,
he wouldn't just play straight down. He had a swing to his playing. It was
he has swing, yeah, and he
wax on, wax
he plays
off.
quite a lot with his shoulder as well.
Yeah. And that's something
he's like
he like
carries around.
He whenever he does like an open hi-hat, he like kind of hunches up his shoulder. It's like
that,
you know, yeah. He's got a very sort of he does this a lot. Do you know what I mean? When he's drumming, he's just like
a little dance as he's going.
Yeah.
But I think if you listen to Paul's a decent drummer, but it's very clear he's just keeping time, and he's doing it as the backing of everything else on top of it. Whereas Ringo very much treats it almost as if it's like a lead instrument in a way. Like you listen to some of his drumming on Sgt. Pepper, and it feels almost very separated from everything else going on, but still works for the song.
Yeah.
We were talking about this with Luke a while ago. It's about like working with the song or writing something to fit the song as opposed to just doing something to stand out. And Ringo has a brilliant way of, like it's a Day in the Life, I think it is, where his drumming is so it's not subtle and it's very in your face, but it's still quite, might not be a day in the life. It's something on Sgt. Pepper, but his drumming's a bit in your face, but it still works very well with the song, and it's not him just showing off. It is also him like serving the song in a way. He's a brilliant drummer.
Yeah, I mean it's the same. Definitely. I feel the same with like Come Together. Like I know it's like, but it's like that drum part is so. It's so separate, it's so unique and individual, but it also so fits like the song. Like you couldn't imagine it without that. Because he could just do dum dum da 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 da.
And then after he does his filler, from what I understand, he goes straight into just kick and
floor tom.
Snare. Yeah.
I
think it is just, and it's just like straight. It's like. And it lets the vocals and the guitars come in properly. And that bass part as well is brilliant. Again, McCartney is just a brilliant player, but it's a very simple bass part once you look at it. It's just a D pentatonic. But it's the way he... not pentatonic, D minor pentatonic, I think. But the way he uses his bass part is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed it still does play in the background of the rest of the song. It's not just that intro; it is going throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's very subtle. It's quite. They're all just really good musicians.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love Ringo, man. I found I found a really cool found a really cool, another thing, I forgot to talk about this. I know it's like a bit outfield, but it's got something to do with Ringo, because it's got something to do with Premiere, which was, he played Premiere before he played Ludwig. And I found I found a symbol known as Zin, so ZYN. And I think Zin symbols were like often sold with Premiere. I think they might have been Premiere's own line of symbols. And I think he might have even played Zin at some point before he played Zildjian. I don't know if he played Zildjian, right? He must have played Zildjian.
I've very honestly, limited knowledge of Ringo's instruments.
I think he must have done. But Zin was like a really vintage like cymbal company, and I found one of those Zin cymbals in my school, you know, and just the sound of it, it was like this really jazzy kind of washy ride, and I'm like, that's the exact thing you could just imagine Ringo sort of like washing on, like wax on, wax off, you know, on like one of those earlier records. Like it just had that vibe to it. So that's one for the bucket list of cymbals.
I've got a bucket list of instruments. I really want a Rickenbacker bass.
Nice.
But they're so expensive.
Yeah.
Like ridiculously expensive. But like quite a lot of people use them. I originally associated it with like McCartney because he uses it at the end of the Beatles and into Wings. Doesn't use it anymore, weirdly enough. He just mainly uses it often now. But like the bassist from Green Day, Mike Dunn. It's escaping me. Someone else uses one that I'm failing to think of. Quite a lot of people use them. Yeah, is my point. And they're beautiful and they sound great. And I really want one, but money.
Money, man. We should get when we get Teddy and George from my band on here. We should have like a full-on guitar talk, because I think they'd love that, because I think they have a Rickenbacker that they inherited from someone. I don't know who. They were very lucky.
Very lucky.
Very lucky. They've got this it's a nice Rickenbacker. And I remember we've used it in like rehearsals and stuff, and I'm just like, even just looking at it, it's just a piece of art, isn't it? And hearing the sound, it's got such a nice tone. Like I'll just be playing along, and I'll be like trying to play quieter because I just want to hear that bass tone. Like I just want to hear that. Like
the guy from the Suite. That's who I'm thinking.
Right.
I forget his name, but he plays it. The guy from the Suite. I really like the Suite. But yeah, it's like a very 70s sound. It's a beautiful instrument.
Yeah. I love vintage sounds, man. I think I feel the same with guitars as I do with drums, even though I'm not a guitarist. Like, I love vintage drums. I don't play vintage drums, but I would love to one day. If I have the money, one day I'll just play exclusively nice old vintage kits. You know, because there's just something to them that you just don't get with modern stuff.
There's something with just older instruments as is. I've mentioned before my uncle's a guitarist. He's got a guitar, a Gibson model of some description. And it was one of Gibson's lesser successful models. Because at the time it came out, a lot of people thought it sounded too trebly and it didn't sound right. So they discontinued it in like the mid-70s. My uncle was barely like alive, like he'd barely been born by the time his guitar was in existence. And he owns this beautiful Gibson guitar, and it is quite trebly, but it's 50 years old now, roundabout, and a bit younger, and it's such a beautiful sound to it. And when you listen to like proper like really old Strats and stuff and tellies, there's a sound that you can't quite get with anything else.
Yeah,
I don't know what makes it that way, but there's
vintage.
Something about it. It's just old.
It's
like old. Fine wine.
Yeah, ages. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's the same.
But this
with like cymbals, because I've said this before. Like cymbals age really like fine wine because they get like a patina. You know how nice, like brand new cymbals are nice and shiny and they look all nice. But if you take a cymbal from like 50 years ago and like dig it out of like a crate somewhere, it's going to be covered with like this nice brown, you know, it's basically just years of grime and aging and corrosion.
Yeah.
And but for some reason that makes it sound like 10 times better, because it's just got that, it's darker and it's like crispier, and you hit it and you're just like, oh, that's that vintage sound. Like, I love it.
Well,
You don't get that with like brand new cymbals. They're all shiny
No.
and they're too clean. You know, you want something that's like a bit warped, a bit back. Like this Zin cymbal that I found was like, I lifted it up and it wasn't even. It was like a floppy pancake. Like it was like one edge was like bent up like that, and the other was like there. It wasn't even, and it was keyholing. Like the hole which you put it onto the stand, the hole had like been, no one had used cymbal protectors, and it had like kind of gouged away at the edge of it. And but I hit it, and I was like, this is the best cymbal that I've ever played, because it's just like genuinely just got such a lovely tone and like wash. And I was in love with that cymbal.
I've heard the phrase about guitars. It's like, if buy a guitar that's at least 10 years old, which I don't, but you got to wait for a guitar to age before it starts sounding really good, apparently. Well, I slightly disagree, because all of mine are less than 10 years old. Besides the classical, which doesn't sound amazing.
I think people who say that are just the kind of people who can afford those instruments. Do you know what I mean? Because I think if we could afford like the best of the best, like if I could afford like a vintage Ludwig kit from like the 60s and like some really nice old Zildjians that go for loads of money online on eBay and stuff, if I had the money for that, I would swear by it. But because I'm like, you know, I've got the money for what I can afford, I think that's what sounds best for me, because I can afford it.
I try, whenever you go into a guitar store, don't try the most expensive thing or the oldest thing or anything, because then you immediately get headsets on, like, right, that's what I want to sound like. Whereas if you start with the cheap stuff, you can then go, oh, okay, so about mid-range is what I want.
I think it's always better to make something that, even if it's a bit cheaper, if you make it your own and just work. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not about gear, it's about your playing. But sometimes you can be limited by gear and you can be held back. It's good to have a certain level of gear, but it's also good to not base everything around gear and just think, how can I take a piece of gear and just use it in the best way possible, even if it's cheap?
I think, I agree to an extent. I've seen like really young kids buy like a really cheap Stratocaster knockoff and almost like fight the guitar to be able to play it properly. It's like, you don't want that. You don't want to be fighting with your instrument, because it just dissuades you and just turns you off of it. I once owned a left-handed acoustic by a company whose name I forget, but it was a big guitar, dreadnought size. It sounded okay. It sounded quite all right, but the fact is the guitar was set up in such a bad way. The action, which is how hard the strings are off the board, was literally like, you had to really put down a lot of strength to even get a proper note out of it. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be fighting against your instrument to sound good. So I think you certainly have to have a level of gear to sound right. But you don't, on the other end, you don't need a £3,000 Strat to sound good.
No. Well, I mean, my example that I always use is Mac DeMarco. I don't know if you've listened to much Mac DeMarco, but he literally has like I don't even know what brand it is, but it's a very cheap Japanese knockoff guitar, and it's really old. He's had it from like the 80s, and it's like he's literally got like a piece of like plywood over the like as a scratch plate sort of thing. And like he's just like he's modded it, DIY'd it, like put in his own pickups and all of this, and like you look at it and it's like an absolute like mess. But you hear him playing, you're like, geez, this guy doesn't need I mean, he has a gold Fender now, but he doesn't need a gold Strat to sound good. Like he doesn't need that.
Well, there's the story of Robert Smith. His very first guitar was this knockoff instrument. It wasn't even a knockoff of like a Strat or anything. Like it was a knockoff of a knockoff or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember how much he bought it for, but like it was a cheap thing. And it was like one of his very first guitars. It was, and he immediately modded it, and he plays it on the first couple of Cure albums, I believe. Up until he started buying more expensive stuff and he could afford it. But again, it's the same thing. Like a cheap instrument doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad. It's how you use it. But if you're starting out on an instrument where it's not set up properly, or as I say about young kids with guitars where they're pushing down really hard to even make a proper chord, you don't want that. You want something to at least work for you. That's why I'm quite happy with this thing, is because even though it's cheap Toys R Us thing, it doesn't fight you. You can play it. It's really out of tune right now, so if I don't like it,
that was beautiful.
Oh, good lord! But it needs tuning. Clearly.
But I'm sure it sounds lovely when it's tuned.
But yeah, I mean, once you get it like properly tuned, obviously, yeah. I mean, it doesn't fight you. You can. It plays really nicely.
Yeah. I've played so many like entry level kits where it's exactly the same. I've been playing and I'm just like, this is so easy to play. Like, why is this so much easier than that kit I played in the studio with like really nice cymbals and stuff? And it's like, well, it's because sometimes there's such a fun playability to those cheaper instruments, because they're like, I don't know, they're just like rough and ready. You can just kind of hit them whichever way you want. Like there's something to them there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh dear.
Oh no. It's happened again. This is Jack right now. I might keep this in the podcast.
I think so. Have you?
Not really. We could talk about injuries again, about musician injuries, because this is something I want to get into.
Because I've got back pain.
Yeah. Not.
I'm trying to adjust myself properly, so it's in a proper place.
So obviously, I mean, you've like injured yourself from playing. It just happens over extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Has that happened before, or is it like brand new?
Back pain is new, but I have before, particularly when I've played the piano. We did this version of Hound Dog at our school, and I did the solo, right? And I was just playing like C blues scale, but I did this glissando right up the keyboard. And the way that which is the slide, and the way that the keyboard was set up was there was a block of wood right at the end of the keys. I didn't expect there to be that block of wood, hand right into it.
Ouch.
And I was like, not good. And I've done that before on that piano before, so I should have really known that what I was doing. But as you go up and you hit the wood, you come back down, and I was just not having fun with it.
Smack the knuckles, and it really hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was really painful. And then I've done sometimes as well, catch your finger, your skin in between two keys. It's not too much of a problem if you're playing like a digital piano because it's all plastic. But when you're playing like a grand piano or something, where they're like ivory, like you do get your finger stuck and you cause problems. What else? The common injury I get is when a guitar string breaks and it whips you.
Ooh,
It's not there anymore, but when my acoustic broke the other day, I ended up with a massive like line right down my hand.
Ouch.
I've also just got really sensitive skin, so I just like scar really easily.
Right, that's rough. That's rough for a guitarist as well, because that's so much. That's got to, your fingers have got to kill. I mean, if you've got good calluses though, you've got like good.
Yeah, well, you got to have short fingernails and stuff, and you build up over time your finger ends build up fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just every now and again you end up with an injury. Yeah. I have a really bad habit of biting my fingernails. And I bit my fingernail too close to down, and that really hurts because then you've got to press down
while you're playing.
You're playing, and it catches you out. Not fun.
I mean, I used to get like blisters from from like here from like gripping
Blisters on my
too tightly.
fingers.
I got blisters on my fingers. Yeah, that was what it was like. It was like blisters there and there. But then I just started holding them looser because I was like, I can't.
Yeah, you just got
I was like holding them like
to let them
this.
loose.
It was just when I was like playing only Green Day, and I was just like,
Yeah, so you got really hard, yeah.
and so my hands were just like always clenched. But now I'm just like, yeah, it's, you know, got to hold them light and play some jazz.
What instrument was it when I was playing that I got blisters? I can't remember what it was. I've gotten blisters before from playing something, but I can't remember what it was. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was just
blisters on your
really
lips.
Get that checked out. No, the thing is with the harmonica is when you, it's the fact is when you've got your mouth on it, it becomes wetter as it goes, and you end up with a bit of grime around the edges, which is really gross.
Yeah.
But you just wipe it off.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really gross.
Nice, dude.
Don't share harmonicas with anyone.
No, that's not
bad.
a good idea, especially in these
Don't share
COVID
any
times.
Yeah, definitely not.
Mm.
But definitely don't share any instrument that requires you to use your mouth.
See, that's the thing. Even
it's just
but even sharing instruments,
just facts of life.
Even any instrument now, because if you touch it, do you know what I mean? Like, I guess drums is probably the safest thing because if you have your own sticks, you should be fine. But like everything now is like a risk. Like I think they like probably have to shut so many like music departments because you can't go and pick up instruments and like get a feel for them because they've got to disinfect them and do all of that.
Well, I went into a music store the other day. I went into the piano section. I wasn't even really looking for anything. I just wanted to see what kind of pianos they had. And I was told, we can't let you play anything unless you're looking at buying, because we then got to go and disinfect everything.
Yeah.
Which was a slightly shame because they had a really nice grand piano. That would have been really lovely to play. I was not going to buy it at the God forbidden price it was, but I was. You know, you see a grand piano, you want to sit down at it at least and mess around a bit.
Sure.
But yeah, no, definitely don't. And it's all instruments really that you blow into, like saxophones, trumpets, whatever. You don't.
Yeah.
It's been a rule for ages, let alone COVID. You don't share those.
Don't share that
because you end up with shared all sorts. But yeah, no, I don't share harmonicas because it's just
don't share harmonicas,
it's all
kids.
Don't.
Sharing it as a concept is a good thing, but sharing harmonicas,
sharing instruments.
Yeah.
This is one of the double-edged swords of being left-handed. Is I don't actually like. No one wants to try and play my stuff because it's all upside down. So it's fine. No one plays my instruments, but at the same time, I can't play anyone else's.
That's true. But I guess it's like it's unique to you. It's like, haha, this is my thing. This is who else is doing it this way, you know? I think it's cool.
Yeah, I've had like little kids come around, and they were fascinated by this room. Absolutely fascinated because it's loads of like fun things that make sounds. And oh god. Oh, knocked over the phone.
Kids love that though, don't they? They love anything that can make a loud, annoying sound.
Well, they particularly like a piano where you can just like slam your hands down and it made loads of sounds.
Yeah.
They were also really fascinated with ukuleles because the way a ukulele's tuned, it's already a chord.
Yeah, and they probably like how colourful it is as well. That's what.
Yeah, they quite like this one, but they preferred the other one, which is down there, which I'm not going to bother grabbing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were fascinated by these. And I tried to explain to them, right, if you put your finger there, that's the chord. Wasn't bothered, just. But it's fine.
I think it takes a bit of time, doesn't it? With
But they were actually really respectful. Really respectful with them.
That's good. Oh man, can I tell you a story
you don't always get.
Can I tell you a story about? Oh man, like, this is so you were lucky, right? That
Right.
you those people were respectful, right?
Oh no.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So I was taking part in a workshop at my school where a guy came in to talk about like hand drums from around the world. So like
Yeah.
congas and you know djembes and all of this sort of thing. And it was also he like specialized in like sound therapy. It was a really interesting like thing. He was like, there's loads of different exercises you can do with percussion that actually really
Yeah.
relax your mind and really it's like it's a form of therapy that he does. And there was like this Tibetan like sound bowl thing, and if you the vibrations, if you like ran this thing around it and you put water in it, the vibrations would make the water like it made the bowl
Ah.
create this like high pitched like sound, and it made the water like vibrate and like it was crazy. Like I'll have to show you a video of it at some point, but
Yes, I
I'll
can
look
help
it
you out with
up.
that.
I'll look up what it's called and I'll try and like find a clip of it and put it in or something. But it was really cool. And so this guy was doing this workshop. It was all going really well. It was me and any other people who played drums or percussion in the whole school. And right, these are expensive. These are nice, expensive instruments, right? You know, these are authentic instruments. And you take a group of year sevens up to year
God.
nines in a room, and you turn your back for 1 second, and it's like, you know, hitting things like, and I'm just sitting there, just like, oh god, like, oh please don't.
Oh, that's almost because these kids that came here were like 3 to 6 years old, like the two of them, and they were really respectful. Like, oh, can I play that? And then I'll be like, all right, you sit down, and I'll
Yeah,
help
yeah.
you through it.
Are they like
I
little
don't know.
cousins or something?
Yeah,
Their
they don't
family.
pick up what exactly how to do it, but they're like being respectful and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and that's all you can ask for. But like kids, some kids, you like hate. Partly what turned me off when I was younger of learning music was music lessons.
Yeah.
Because not because of the teaching or anything, but because of the kids in there. Because you sit down a group of kids in a music class with loads of like Casio keyboards, immediately someone's going to press the DJ button or find the gun sound or
Yeah.
the car, and it's pointless.
Yeah, man.
It doesn't help anyone at
I
all.
once helped my teacher run we were doing like an arts festival, and she had
Right.
like I think it was like a year 9 class that she wanted to do some sort of something themed around recycling but also around music. And so we had this idea, me and the teacher, we were like, well, we could just go around the school and collect things that are getting thrown away and see if we can turn them into instruments. So we found like
Right.
this big barrel, this big like empty like metal, like it looked like an oil like barrel thing.
Right. Okay.
And we turned that on its side, and we found like loads of like buckets and like weird things that were going to get thrown away, like junk. We're talking like just
Yeah.
household objects like spoons, stuff. And we were just like, we got them all in a circle, and they each got like a couple of things that they could hit to make a sound. And we basically got them doing this like drum circle using like um using just like trash. And one of them, so it would like one of them would start and they'd just do like a pulse, and it kind of sounded a bit sambery. So the first guy who started was just hitting a big container, and it had quite a deep like a big oil drum, and it made quite a deep sound. So he was just like boom 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 boom
Yeah.
boom 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 boom, and he'd keep that going. And then someone was like tapping a metal pipe, and they'd be like da 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 da, and it would just keep going around, and it like gradually layers built up as each person like added their rhythm. And then they did like call and response, and it was like bum 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 bum, and everyone else had to go bam 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 bam. And it was actually kind of sick what you can achieve with a group of people if you just like focus people. I don't know, it's difficult.
That goes back to what we discussed a while ago in music education. Is if you get kids who are actually interested and actually want to do it, you end up with some really nice stuff.
Yeah.
But if you just throw a bunch of like 10-year-olds into a room, as you say, with a Casio keyboard who have no whatsoever. It's just riots in it. It's just like slam the keyboard and make as much noise as possible. Yeah, it turned me off a bit of learning music because I was like, I don't want to. Like, music classes was just no fault of the teachers either, because they were really good teachers, but it was just you don't want to learn in an environment where no one's actually caring about what's going on.
That's always the thing I felt like. Even in GCSE, there was such a proportion of people who chose GCSE music because they thought it would be an easy ride and because they didn't want to take anything else. And like literally up until I did the A-level BTEC was when I finally felt like I was actually in a class of people who wanted to be there. Because even at GCSE, there's so much, like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't enjoy GCSE music, but I don't regret doing it because at least it meant that I could take the BTEC, which was more suited to me, because it was more to do with like the music business side of things. And I think a lot of music education, like we were talking about this like ages ago. I don't think it's been in a podcast yet, but the way music education is sort of, you know, done for children, it isn't engaging. And like you said, it's through no fault of the teacher. I think it's like because it's the curriculum that you are prescribed and you have to teach. And I'm sure a lot more people would be into music if they were taught differently, like a different curriculum. But I mean, what can you do?
Yeah, exactly. What can you do? It's well, then you can get private lessons, can't you? Which are definitely helpful to some people, but not everyone can afford those.
No.
I know certainly I couldn't.
Yeah.
And it's an option, but it's not always the greatest option. I think, you've just got to either deal with it, or I'm sure come the next decision by an education minister to change the whole curriculum again, they'll screw it up even more or something. But yeah, it's a bit of education that kind of gets looked over because it's not necessarily what everyone wants to do. You know, you need to do maths and English and stuff, but not everyone needs to do music. But I think it's still an important thing to at least have some knowledge of. Yeah. Even if it is just like Bar Black Sheep or something. Like, I think having some respect for it.
It's like baffling to me that there are people who just have no, like, music just isn't part of their life. Like, to them, it's just I don't care. Because to someone like you or me, it's such an integral part of who we are that, like, seeing people who are just, I don't really listen to music and I'm not really bothered by how it's done. It's like what? Like, it just baffles me. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel.
People who say they don't listen to music, coming from someone who once said he doesn't listen to a lot of music, it's just BS. It's not like everyone does. It's such even if you don't really think of it, you're always listening to music in some way. Whether you're watching a film, there's music in the background, or an advert, there's music in the background. And again, what we were saying with Luke as well, those people, musicians who write music in the background of like an advert or something, quite underrated in a way because you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, because it's in the background, but it's influencing how you feel about the advert.
It's there. It's still there.
It's subliminally like making you want to buy that product.
People don't listen to music. Oh, don't. Yeah, well, that's the aim. It's not always, but it's like, but it's just, or like even like a simple YouTube video or something. There is music going on. It's just you might not be listening to it on like Spotify. You might not be listening to certain artists, or whatever. But it doesn't mean you don't listen to music.
Yeah. On a subconscious level, you're taking it in. Yeah.
And even then, I still think there are people who, even the people who say they don't listen to a lot of music, I still think in some ways that if you did put some kind of music on, they can decide whether they like it or they don't like it. Yeah. Because it's just, it's a part, saying how your brain's wired. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't fully speak on it. But it's something with how your brain's wired and how you pick up certain sounds. I mean, it is as simple as like if I here, hang on, if I get closer, if I sit and play like this chord, right, that immediately to you spells like a sad sound, right? Whereas if I did like it, but that's as simple as like a minor to major thing.
Yeah.
And you even if you knew what chord that was, even if I gave you no context what that is, your brain still goes, that sounds sad.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. And so I think
because we've been tuned to think like that, because as we grow up listening to music, even if you say, oh, I don't listen to music, you are still subconsciously taking in the fact that those, you know, major chords are associated with happy, and you know, and then the minor chords,
happy sound,
yeah,
and then that's a sad sound, or even something like that sound is just an awful sound. It's what you call a tritone. Immediately your brain goes, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, it goes, something's wrong, like panic. Yeah, because
your brain's like, nah, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So even if you don't get music or whatever, your brain still is comprehending music, and it is still understanding. If I play like a really complex chord, let's say like a that chord, right? That is immediately your brain picks out the notes of that chord and starts figuring out the harmony. That's quite almost like a mysterious sound, really. Your brain is working with music all the time, even if you don't think you are.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
It's a really clever thing.
The psychology between music and the brain is insane. Yeah.
I mean, I don't play that.
Yeah.
Like, that's quite a sort of sad, but still feels quite reminiscent. Kind of, your brain is working.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, even if you have no clue what any of it is or what any of it means. And
You're
people who are like, oh, I don't get music theory. Oh, it's you know, silly whatever. Your brain is still doing music theory.
Absolutely.
You just don't know you're doing it, which is quite cool. I do quite like that idea.
I think so.
But yeah, I'm going to turn this off because it's going to start interfering with it in a minute, and that will definitely kick me out of the call.
Well, that's a cool. Yeah. It's an interesting point you make there about how your brain is constantly processing what you're hearing. Yeah.
And it's the same as speech. I mean, speech obviously isn't music, but your brain is still comprehending speech in a way.
Yeah.
Whether it's a dialogue in a film or someone talking to you or an advert or whatever, like your brain is still, even if you're not listening particularly, even if you're sat on your phone, you know, like on Twitter or something, your brain is still listening to what's going on the TV.
Yeah.
Even if you're not necessarily comprehending it fully, your brain is still figuring stuff out.
Hence why, you know, indoctrination and subliminal messaging is such an important thing. No, I'm being completely serious. Like, I mean, it's
entering a weird realm.
We are entering a weird realm. I don't want to get too political, but yeah, it's almost like you've got to be really aware of what you're passively just allowing to enter your sort of subconscious.
I think, yeah, I mean, music is a language in a way.
Yeah. Do you ever dream? Do you ever have music in your dreams? When you dream
very
at night,
occasionally.
Do you? Because I've never. Do you know what I'm thinking about it? And I don't think I've ever had music in my dreams, which is weird.
It's a weird phenomenon. I've had a couple. I've yet to have had a dream where I come up with a song in the dream.
Right, because that has happened to people.
Style.
Yeah.
Yeah, like McCartney's written quite a couple of songs actually out of a dream. But no, I've had. I had a concert dream just for some reason. I was in like a garden, like someone's garden that just happened to be someone's concert or whatever. And yeah, you end up with music, but it's not necessarily music that I've been listening to, but it's something that's probably been in the background of something or other that just gets in your head. And yeah, it's your subconscious is remembering stuff. That's mainly how dreams work anyway, but it's quite an interesting thing. I mean, I don't quite know a lot of people have actually had it.
No, I've never had. Thinking about it, maybe I have. I can't remember ever having noticeably having a song in my dream. It's almost like it's just dialogue or whatever. But something that I have noticed is as a drummer, something that I've been doing a lot all my life, and I've only just really started to acknowledge it, is like clicking my teeth percussively. So, and it looks like I'm like grinding my jaw.
I get that.
Because I'm like tapping my teeth to make drum sounds in my head. It's weird. Like I'll just be sitting there, and you might be able to see it.
I get that.
And people will just see
I
my
can't
jaw.
fully see it, but I know exactly what you're doing because I've done the same thing.
Yeah. And I was in a assessment in like a maths lesson, and I was just clicking away, and someone next to me was like, "Can you stop clicking? I can literally hear your teeth clicking." And I was like, "I'm really sorry. I can't help it." Like they just looked over, and my mouth was just like, it's just a thing I do.
I do quite a similar thing. I also sort of humming as well is a big thing. I don't hum as much anymore, but I used to hum quite a lot. So it could be subconsciously or something to do with that, but it's just a way of expressing a musical thing without necessarily doing a musical thing. It's the same as clicking your teeth. I've done that before. Sort of not grinding your teeth, but I stopped doing it because I did confuse it with grinding my teeth.
I grind my teeth. It's probably really bad for my teeth.
Yeah, it is quite bad.
Let us know in the comments if you do either of those things, because it'd be interesting to know. Or hum, because I hum too when I'm drumming. I hum tunelessly. I'll be drumming, and I won't even have a tune in mind, but I'll just be droning, and it's really weird because it's almost like I'm needing like the bass frequencies like in my head, but I do it so loudly.
You need to figure out.
That I drown out my bass drum. I can't even hear my bass drum when I'm doing it because it's on the same frequency. You see what I mean? Because I don't hum high pitched. I've got quite a low voice, and my humming pitch is like quite low, and so it just blocks it out. I can't hear my bass drum. It's like I can feel it, but I can't hear it.
I remembered something after we had our chat, the very first one of these, where we were talking about music as a kid and learning music. I remember I had a memory of almost thinking up like little counter melodies and stuff, which is a very like bass or like lead guitar parts, so as opposed to melody. And I remember very vividly listening to Mr. Blue Sky by ELO and coming up with like this weird counter melody. I can't remember where it goes. No, I can't remember how it goes. But coming up with this counter melody to the actual main one in my head. And I don't know why I was doing it, but just my brain was just going, oh, that sounds quite...
Yeah.
That just goes quite nicely with it. But yeah, like figuring out little random bits, but it goes back to what I'm saying. I was never playing an instrument at that point. I was like, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But my brain was doing something musical. Because you just do. People whistle all the time, or hum or whatever. It's because you are still. Humans want communication. That's evolutionary. Part of the reason why we're so evolved as ahead of other animals is because of our ability to communicate, and supposedly our ability to gossip over it is the other thing. That's quite an interesting thought. Is our species evolved because we gossip. Can't remember why. I've read it. It was quite
Jack, do you want to hear what I heard the other day? You will never believe this.
No, I'm pretending. You can hear that.
I'm pretending to gossip with you so that we can.
Oh, right, okay. That plane's really low.
Guess what? Sorry. Guess what Samuel did the other day?
Honestly.
Don't let me get into it.
But it's supposedly something that's how our brains work or something, and so on. But we music, as I say, is a language, and your brain, whether you notice it or not, is doing something musical at some point in the day, because it's just another language. It's another way of communicating that you're. Even if you don't get it, even if you don't know what a minor or major chord or what a note is what or whatever, it doesn't matter. You don't need music theory for your brain to work on music. You just need an understanding of what it is.
And,
Like,
and about what you were saying about communication as well. I feel like, especially playing music with other people, and especially when it's just an impromptu jam where you're just, you're not reading music, you're just feeding off each other. That is like a form of musical conversation. There's like nothing like it.
The full clip of when we were playing the blues jam at our open mic. I've never uploaded the full clip because it's a bit messy in places, but the dynamics of us as a group changes. We don't speak a word, but the dynamics of the group change at some point, and we go quieter and then build up louder and louder. We're not saying a word to each other. It's just the feel of the music, and that exactly what you're saying is communication of it and understanding how it goes. But yeah, or even like I may not be able to speak Chinese or whatever. Or it's not Chinese, it would be Mandarin, or I can't speak any other language. But if I started playing a piece on a piano, someone who doesn't speak English understands what that piece means, or like how that feels. If I start playing like a major chord, immediately it's like, oh, that feels quite a happy sound, and the harmonies that work around it, and so on. Even if you don't understand music theory, your brain still picks out harmony or still picks out a melody. It's really clever how it works.
Yeah, I mean that's why I love. I mean, like talking about communication, like that's why I love percussion. I know it's not melody, but I feel like that, and like I agree with you. We do understand melody. Like different people from all over the world have that uniting factor of melody and music and song. But the great thing about percussion, it feels like such a primal, instinctual thing. It's like because it's like the oldest instrument, it's just hitting.
Yeah, well, it's just banging things.
Yeah, and like when you get two drummers or more, and you're in a circle or whatever, and you're doing like you're all doing call and response, and you're playing all these different rhythms over the top and like melding, blending. It's like it genuinely makes you feel like a deep level of human connection. And I feel that with any jam, I always feel like the best kind of jam is when it's just improvised, and you just sort of start and like you were saying in the blues jam, the rising and falling dynamic, like no one was saying that, but it's just communicated through the music.
I think the only words that were spoken during that jam was me saying, right, one more time round, and then
one more,
I think that's the only time anyone said a word, because otherwise it's all just it's just the music. It's just following each other along, and it's really great to be able to do that. And there's the other jam that we did, me on piano and Sean and Aidan on guitars. Again, very similar thing of a dynamic was led by how Sean's playing the lead guitar that we then all follow, and then it raises back up, and you see it with John Mayer and Mark Knopfler. There's a brilliant point where he's playing Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler, in the 80s. He's playing he is in Dire Straits. He's playing Sultans of Swing, and he brings it right down into just his guitar and a very simple drum beat, and it builds right back up, and everyone like again, not a single word is spoken. I would guess that they may have rehearsed it beforehand, but it's still your brain is still figuring out the dynamics and how to sound best in that moment.